Hello, my friends. I'm Rick, and this is your seat at the table, and we are looking at the beginning of Cycle 16. I already did a video on that one, I believe, and it's posted. So every now and then, I want to do the hard stuff, the grunt work, and you just kind of have to do it. You know, if you really want it to work well, and we have to update these things. So this is the exchange for Fairwind. This is how I know what I got for supplies, how much I got available, what I can sell, what I don't sell. We are currently on cycle 16, and we are going to go down through the wonderful list. Now I have, looking at my events, I had a population growth increase. We'll get to that here in a bit. Ship traffic roll, class 2 scout from blank guild, they got to be determined. Just visiting on R&R, blah blah blah. So technically I could sell it a couple tons of supplies, but I'm not going to sweat it. I am unloading cargo from one of my cargo or my mining ships, so I have 35 tons of oxygen. So we are going to go to O and add 35 to that, and check all this stuff. So the next thing would be CO, or carbon, not carbon, but cobalt, and 29. So that is and then O2 is water, so we're adding 35. And oxygen 12. Or no, that's O2 35 and O2 12. So we had 35, 47. That's awesome. 47 tons of water. And lithium, it's in crap, goes into batteries and other crap. LA on the periodical charts is 14 tons. So LA is plus 14. And in addition, there is the oxygen, 10 for the oxygen, in addition to the oxygen above, so 45 tons of oxygen. And rubidium, or rubon, I can't pronounce it, RB on the periodical chart, we're getting 15 tons of that. And 9 tons of lead. And organics, 17. Never give enough organics. And boron is 13. Alright. Yeah, and Silver Hunter, that research, that and Iron Hunter to Hardmore system. So the mining ships to cover more. Right, that's for mining. Alright, so now already my planetary production has, since I have not added any new factory builds or any kind of auxiliary builds that produce or utilize something, none of that has changed. So most of this is the same as before. It's just we need to update it for the modern point. So I'll go down that with atmospherics. We create 10 tons a cycle. We use atmospherics in creating ship components, specifically life support systems and crewed living decks and things like this. It's also utilized in a lot of factory production because we produce any kind of vehicle that's Tech 3 or higher has atmospherics installed in it, because they're going to be able to operate in more hostile environments than your traditional internal combustion engine, for example. So we have production of 10. We use 1 ton every cycle. Means I have a surplus of 10 every cycle. So or 9. So 9. I have 32 before. So that brings us to 41. And then I'm going to adjust what my exchange is going to profit off of that. So 41. And if you, there's a nice little nifty chart here that's available, obviously, that you could just easily reference it. But the base is 1.0. So in the case of 41, we're going to have a 0.6 or 0.59 per ton. 0.59 credits per ton. So times 41 equals, yeah, 24.1. So this will net the house 24.1 credits this cycle. And then go into AG, which I think is a gold. I'm still needing, I have a negative of 115, so it's costing me 1.5, negative 1.5. Aluminum, I have a massive consumption of aluminum. We're doing 17 tons a cycle. And so administrative materials, I have produce 10, I use 11.6, which gives me a negative of 1.6 tonnage per turn times 1.016 or something. So I have a surplus. I'm stockpiling a surplus in here because you need administrative materials for certain builds. So what I've done is I've choose to take a negative, I'm going to remove 5 tons of production, diverting 5 tons to my warehouse, and then the other 5 tons reduces the amount of what that would cost me per cycle. So argon, AT, no, AU, I guess AU would be gold. I'm not sure what AG is. So we have boron. I use 5 tons of boron per cycle. I currently have a 44 in my warehouse, which means every cycle I'm using 44, which would have brought me to 39 and reduce the amount that my cycle or my exchange will make off of it. But because I gained plus 13, I mine some, and so I'm going to take the 5 from that. That gives me 8. This brings my surplus to 52. And then it changes its value. Now, when you hit the 50 ton mark on these exchanges, you start to actually lose money. So having 200 tons of something stockpiled on your exchange couldn't handle 200 unless you expand the warehouse capacity, which you can do. You can add more storage facilities, but all that does is it means that you have a much more larger amount of stuff you have to keep on the exchange to get your optimum amount. And so at 50 tons, we get 25.5 per 50 tons per cycle. Once we get to 51, 52, 53, that 25.5 starts to go back down the hill. So having too little or having too much, it sets how this is going to work. So 0.5, so I got 0.52, so 52 tons, 0.52 times 52 equals, now let's see, I'm not doing right. I get my damn math wrong. So I start preaching about math, I get it screwed up. Okay, so 52, 48, so 52, come on, 52 times 0.48 equals 24.96. So you could round that up to 25 and be fair. So 25.0, and BA is a negative, BK is a negative. So carbon, I produce 5 tons per cycle. I use 12.5 tons per cycle. Now carbon is a ubiquitous term because there's a shitload of stuff that can fall under the concept of carbon. Wood, lumber, trees, grass, plant fiber, the list just is pretty endless. So it's just like a catch-all for all organically grown or the byproduct thereof. So technically coal is a carbon as we know it, even though it's in a form that's not really considered organically viable. Anyway, so carbon, I get a plus 5 tons of production. Eventually I will add more factories that will produce more shit, and that's a long-term goal as we go. So in this case, our needs exceed our production considerably. So instead of, I've chose to eat the negative, so I'm using a negative of 14.6 per cycle because I have a negative of 12.5 need per cycle. And my plus 5 production, I put and divert it into the warehouse. So this brings me up to 54 tons. And this is important because when I want to build those factories, I want to build more housing. I want to build things that are going to enhance the capabilities of my colony. Then it requires material to do that, and that's why we're stockpiling it. And it also, by stockpiling it, if we hit that sweet spot at 50 tons, anything above 50 tons, you just kind of shift it into storage, put it into the warehouse, because you can store up to 150 tons of it until you hit the ceiling. At that point, it'd have no choice but to keep piling it up on the exchange until we hit 300 tons. So 301 is the maximum amount of tonnage we can have for a specific commodity or resource or manufactured material, unless we choose to build additional storage facilities to move that stuff from the exchange to that location. So that's how that plays out. And so we'll go back to carbon. I had that there. Computers, it's a similar scenario. I currently have 37 surplus, and I have 25 in the warehouse, and I'm using 5.6. So if I take the 8, and this is generally how I try to do this, I take the 8 tons that are being produced, and I minus from what my production is. That gives me 2.4. So 2.4, and I'm going to put one of it, and we're going to put one of it in the warehouse and the other on the exchange. So I've got 26 tons in the warehouse, and what was that? 36.4. 36.4. So remember what I said was I'm going to take $1, one credit, 1.0, and I'm going to divide it by 36.4. 36.4 equals 0.027. So 0.27. Yeah, that don't sound right neither. Oh, jeez. Maybe you might have to go back and get it. So let's see, 36, and then it'd be, 0.364, 0.36 times 36.4 equals 13.1. So we're still making some money off of it, but we're starting to lose ground, such as it is. That one's fine. See, I'm maxed out at 50 on the surplus to keep my maximum at 25.5. There's 25 additionally in the warehouse. I have 15, and 15 minus 1.5, so 13.5. So 25, so 28.5. Welcome to 38.5. Welcome to my crappy Iowa public education methodology for doing math, right? So chemicals, same method. I'm producing 20 tons. I'm using 15.6. So that leaves me with 4.4, and so 4.4, and I got 27. So 0.2, 28, 32.8. And then construction materials is 22. I'm using, why is that down? I don't know why have I balanced it that way? That don't make sense. We're going to adjust it. So what I've got here is I've got surplus in the warehouse. I have surplus production for construction material. My needs are less than half of what I produce, and so yet I have an oddball number on my surplus. So either I sold some last cycle, and that's a possibility, and adjusted everything, or it's just something that somehow I did not update. So we're going to take 22. We're going to minus 9.6, and that gives us 12.4. And if I have 39.9 on the exchange, that's 52.3. So we can change this to 50 tons and get the 25.5. And then the balance, 2.3, is going to go to the warehouse. So that brings the balance to 37.3. 37.3 in the warehouse. Okay, so we have cobalt. Now I mined 29 tons, and I currently have 7 in surplus. And I don't have any negatives. I don't have any needs for cobalt at this point, so I put it all in the surplus, and it just generates money until somebody comes along and buys it, or I find a need for it that I got to divert it. So 29 and 7 is 36. So we're going to put 36 tons there, and we have 36 Let's see, so 36, 64, so 0.64 times 36 equals 23.0, and I probably butchered my damn math something fierce in this crap. Man, I tell you what, when I went back to college in my 30s, I had to take some extra math classes that I hated algebra in high school. I absolutely did not do it. I took a bunch of extra general math to avoid it. So I had to take algebra and trig and geometry. I had to take all those as supplemental courses in my first semester at college. I had to jam them in addition to my other classes. And when I went to, I had to get a tutor, and his tutor was like 80-year-old retired math teacher. And so when he and I looked at the book for the stuff that they were having me do, he had to figure it out. He says, I don't recognize any of this crap. And I thought, in my head was like, oh Lord, I am so hosed. I still managed to get past it. I got passing grades in the classes I needed to. I'm not exactly proud of the numbers I did end up with, but it's better than getting my ass handed to me. All right, so moving on, I go to electronics. I produce 10 tons and I consume 7.9 tons. And I have a negative 2.1 on my exchange. So what I'm doing here is, my guess is I'm taking 5 tons and diverting 5 tons to the warehouse and 5 tons to the exchange. That helps keeps that negative down. So whenever you can feed the negatives, it's a good thing to do, because it helps you to keep the bottom line down. So let's see, we go on to our food production, and I've got, let's clear it off. Alright, so we produced 50 tons of food, minus 21.2 is what we're using for, so 28. Where the hell did I get that from? It should be an odd number, damn it. 21.2 equals 28.0. Alright, that makes no sense whatsoever. Oh, that's an 8. Stupid cat barf all over the top of this. I really need to clean it. Alright, 28.8, and I have 28.8 in the warehouse. That was 76 minus 50, so 76 minus 50, that should be 26, right? Come on. Yeah, 24. No, 74 minus 50 is 20. Yeah, it's 24. 24, and that brings, so that gives me 50 on the exchange in surplus, which gives me 25.5 credits for the cycle. I already have 30 in the warehouse, and this now brings us to 54 tons in the warehouse. And of course, that any of my ships that I need to resupply in my shuttle, I would just pull it out of the warehouse, so I don't have to mess with the exchange itself. So, and we move on to iron. In iron, I have a negative 12, and I mined 8. And so I have a negative down here, but I also need to warehouse some of this shit. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the 8 tons into the warehouse, and that means I have a negative of 12. So it's 12 times 1.12 credits, which would give us a negative 13.4. on that one. And then let's see, fuel, my planetary consumption is almost negligible, so 20, I'm going to clear the clock, 20, and I have 19.9 on the exchange, plus I have 20 in the warehouse, that's 54. We're going to just balance everything around and put most of the fuel on the exchange to bring it up to 50 tons. At least it's 9.9 in the warehouse and 25.5 for credits. And no GA, GE, all H, hydrogen's all negatives. Hardware is plus 20. So we're going to just add all this crap together. So my production for hardware is 20 tons. And I have 40 in the warehouse. And I have 48.9 on the exchange. That brings us to 108. So we're going to change all of this. I'm going to put 50 tons on the exchange. 25.5 will be my payback. And I'm going to minus the 50 from that. It gives me 58.9 in the warehouse. So 58.9 in the warehouse. So HG is still 1.5 and negative. Okay, so housing material. Housing material is 10 tons production minus 2.9 needs. So I currently have a surplus of 14.7. So and what I'm doing here is housing material, so I split it. So I put 5 in the warehouse, that brings it to 15, and then it leaves me with 5, and I get 14.7 on the exchange, and then we have a production need, or cycle need of 2.9, so that leaves me 16.8 on the exchange. Alright, so 16 from 100 is 86, so 85.2. 0.852 times 16.8, that's 14.3. So we have a positive of 14.3. Alright. Yeah. You falling asleep yet? We're only halfway through it. Yeah, this sort of stuff will drive you to tears. I don't blame anybody for logging out of it. This is probably the only, if I had a way to half-ass computerize shit, this would be the one thing I would like to just be able to plug and play on the computer. This game system would work real well if I had somebody that knew, if I knew how to program to create a game that way, but a digital internet version, but it's not going to happen. So we have 39 tons of surplus. IR is, I believe, is salt. So I mined 8 tons. I have 39 in the exchange now. So that brings us to 47. And there's no demand or need for IR. What is IR? Well, Fe is iron, so I know it's not iron. I think it's salt, but I'm not sure. I used to know all this shit real well. Anyway, so 47 is 47 tons times 0.53 gives us 24.9. And if you really want to write small, you could go 24.91. And I've done that, but man, that gets to be a pain in the ass after a while. You need a bigger chart to do it well. All right, so moving on to luxury goods, we have production run. We got 9 surplus, and we've already got 50 on the exchange. So put that in the warehouse. And then we got machinery. We produce 10, use 4, so we get a production surplus of 6. And I've been putting 5 tons, so 35. And that the other one goes, the other 5, so 5 plus 7.6 equals 21.6. No, that ain't right. That ain't right. 12.6, dumbass. 12.6, which would be 88, so 87.874 times 12.6 is 11. Yeah, 11.0. No there, no there, no there. Alright. Produce 13 tons of this shit. I've already got 50 on the exchange. MU medical shit. That was a typo when I left off. So it's medical supplies, medical gear. So I got 7.5 tons. So that gives me 20.3 or 20.5, 20.5 in the warehouse. And move down to the next round of shit. We don't have any NP. I should have had NP. I'm guessing I screwed that one up because here it says I should have had some mined. So oxygen 45. All right, so we have to clear this. 45 already in. Where you at? Oxygen. All right, so we mined 45, and we have 33 on the exchange. That's 78. So minus, so we bring this exchange to 50 tons. So we get 25.5. And then we're going to take what's left, it's at 28, and we have 35, so 58, 73 tons of oxygen in the warehouse. And we move on to water. We have a production of 10. And we mined 47. And we have 8.7 on the exchange. So we're going to, and we have a production use of 22.1. So we went with 43.6 on the exchange. And so 43 is the 57.4. Oh, 56.4. So 0.564 times 50. What? No, dumbass. It's what the hell did I say it was? 50.564 times 43.6. That gives us 24.6 rounded up, right? And that's what we want. We want it because it's honest. Okay, so organics, we mined 17 tons of organics. We're consuming 12, so we have a negative 13. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and put the organics in the warehouse. All right. And one of the things I try to remember to do, and I don't always do it, is after I've entered something and I know I've got it good, I go back and I erase all these mining productions for the cycle, or any kind of shit that's been delivered that cycle. This way it's not confusing me the next time around, because I know I've got it all done. And you got to kind of make a judgment call on that, because sometimes it's better to wait till you're completely done, because if you got to go back, because you better go through your you'll have to go through your notes, and you might just lose shit too. It's the nature of the beast. All right, so we move in, we did that, we got OS lead. So in the lead department, it's the same thing. I don't know that I need lead anytime soon, but I'm going to go ahead and just warehouse this 9 tons that I managed to that way have some available, because I don't know what kind of builds that are going to come up that will produce stuff. So power cores, we have a production of 10, and we have 26.6 in 10 plus 26.6 on the exchange. But I also know that I'm trying to warehouse these damn things, so I'm going to split shit a little, and I'm going to put 30 on the exchange, and that'll give me another 6 to go in the warehouse. This brings 31 tons, so we have 30 times 0.7 is 21 credits. So there's 21 credit. And then robotics, I produced 10 tons, and I chose, because there's robotics come into so much use, I just warehouse the entire production run because I know I'm going to need it. And in this case, I got RA, and I have a -3, but I have no production, but I do have 35 in the warehouse, and so we're just going to use 3 tons of it, and that leaves us with 0 negative and 0 positive. The RB, rubium or whatever, we mined 15 tons. That brings us to 36 on the exchange. See, this is another item where I don't have any production, I don't have any needs for it whatsoever either. So this is just generating credits unless a ship comes along and buys it. So 36 is the, you know, 64. So 0.64 times 36 equals 23.0. So far we're doing a good, this would be a good cycle for revenue. Steel. Okay, so I'm producing 15 tons, I'm using 10 tons. And this one I split, so I'm taking 5, I'm go ahead and consuming 10, and I'm just adding 5 to the warehouse. The downside is that sometimes, like robotics, I probably would be better served to just eat the negative. And if we get to the point where the exchange is generating enough surplus, you can afford to do that. Sometimes it's better to put to productions, like in the item like steel. Steel is something we use a lot of, and so having a lot of in the warehouse as much as possible makes more sense to me than you know, taking a little hit on the exchange every cycle. So we have 2.5 in SC. We have 50 on the exchange, 9 in the warehouse, so I've been slowly whittling the warehouse down. So we're going to have 6.5 tons left. And I get below that, once I use up that 6.5, and I start digging into the 50, and I start not generating money. So software is a similar animal. I produce 10, but I need 11.1 tons per cycle. And so what I've done here is split the negative. So I'm going to put half of my production into the warehouse, and that leaves me at 35, and the other half gets consumed by the exchange. So let's see, ST and TI, and now we need to trade goods. So I get 4.9 per surplus from production and 29.4. Pretty much the only thing that, you know, trade goods is specifically that. These are many small, sometimes you can consider them luxury items if you want, and the whole point of them is that it's a catch-all for a lot of different things. And why do I keep getting that weird number, man? So it's an item to be sold as one more thing for the passing ships, but it's also one of these. The one manufactured material that you can target. So any visiting merchant ship can be, you can sell your trade goods to them. And ignore their cargo capacity thing. It's kind of a rub. And the same thing with cruise liners. So passenger liners, cruise liners, you can automatically sell trade goods to them all day long. And it's just a way to generate a lot of money. It's also stuff that obviously you can ship off. It's like a neutral item that you can ship to just about any other planetary exchange anywhere, as long as that exchange can handle it. So some punky little pirate haven somewhere that has has a zero exchange is going to handle zero amount of trade goods, because there's no way for that particular outfit to handle them. So in this case, we end up with, like I said, my math isn't coming up right. I should have 4.9 in trade good, 4.9 plus 29.4 should be 30 something. Why are you saying? You see, it's just, let me clear all this. It's just, that don't make any sense. 29.4 plus 4.9 equals 34.3. See, I have that 5th try to get that damn thing to work. All right, so 34.3. And so we're gonna take that to 65.7. 0.657 times 30. 34.30. 22 and a half. All right. And then we have tools. We have a surplus that we use 4. We produce 10, so we have a surplus of 6. And don't know why I have any of this crap on the damn exchange. Tools are another one of those things where you really kind of need to eat to save as much as you can. So I'm going to take my surplus of 6 tons and I'm going to add it to my warehouse. And then I'm going to go ahead and take the crap I got on the exchange off the warehouse and move it into, or off the exchange and move it to the warehouse. This will then mean I make no money and I don't have a negative on this item. And I currently have 31.2 tons in my exchange. So textiles is another where I get more than I produce more than I use. So I got 3.9 production and 23.4. That makes us 27.3. 27.3. And this goes through the same process. So we take 1.0 or 100 in this case for the equaling 1 credit, and we're going to subtract 27.3. That gives us 17.3. So that's 0.173. 0.173 times 27.3. So that is not right. That is not right. Where would I get that number from in the first place? Jesus, 100. Yeah, it's just driving me crazy. Ew. Don't tell anybody, don't tell the wife I just did that to my shirt. She'll have a shit fit. Alright, well, maybe I can see what I'm looking at a little better now. Okay, clear it. Oh, my trade goods is figured out. Where the hell are we at? Tools. No, we figured out. Alright, so textiles. 27.5. 100 minus 27 equals 73. So 72.7. 0.727 times 27.3. 19.8. Jesus. Alright, so utility vehicles, similar scenario. In this case, though, I have a demand of 18 tons. I only produce 5 tons. So one of my priorities when I talk about building is in the very near future is a heavy foundry. I'm actually stockpiling for that heavy foundry. The heavy foundry is going to produce more utility vehicles and a steel, for example, as well as heavy steel and a couple other. It's a very important facility. As a matter of fact, it's so important that if you play as a player, if you play this game and you come down the road, it's one of these things where you don't think about it until you have to think about it. If you have another player and you want to screw with somebody, sabotage their heavy foundry. Send a warship over there and blow the shit out of it. Do significant damage so that it shuts the production down, and then they have to divert all that resources and material to replacing or rebuilding the damn thing, which then makes you understand that there's levels to this game system. So it's potential that you want to defend certain locations. It's not unlike some tabletop war games that we're familiar with. So in this case, you might have your foundry set up in a remote area of the planet that's defensible, and perhaps you're going to put fences around it. Perhaps you're going to put security systems around it. Perhaps you're going to have security groups around it. Maybe you're going to station troops there. You could have somebody can infiltrate your factory. They can steal your blueprints. They can copy and steal blueprints that you have that they don't have if they're successful. They can mess with your production ratios if they're successful. They can physically plant explosives and crap and then blow shit up if they're successful in their infiltration. You can send commandos to directly attack a facility or outright to aggressively attack it. You might be able to do a negotiated deal with some pirates to go attack your neighbor's facilities for you. You know, the idea being is I won't kill you for being a pirate in my neck of the woods as long as you leave me alone. But if you go while you're out there, if you happen to be over there and you happen to take advantage of this guy, I will give you top credit for his heavy steel production. I'm just saying. I'm just saying that's the possible scenarios that are just endless opportunities. So, all right, so took care of that. Took care of the textiles, utility vehicles. All right, so we have a utility production of 5 tons, and I'm using 18. So obviously, I have a negative 21.2 credits per cycle because I have to eat that. And utility vehicles are extremely valuable for numerous reasons. So I've got 29.6 in the warehouse now. I'm going to add 4 more. That gives us 34.6. So here's the thing when it comes to vehicles. So we have utility vehicles. So that is VU. And we have industrial vehicles, which is VI. Now, industrial vehicles are things like tractors and bulldozers, and you can make an argument that semis fall into that category, prime movers, whatever. Then there's also luxury vehicles. So the luxury vehicles cover the gamut of all your commercial or your privately owned your vehicle, your pleasure vehicles and commuting vehicles. So industrial vehicles could also be qualified as buses, mass transit, things like this, and it depends on your planet. So if you're a planet that's heavily, if you choose an aquatic world, for example, your aquatic vehicles, your utility vehicles might be submersibles, they might be boats, they might be barges, they might be that kind of stuff. And then it goes up in tech level. So when we talk about a Tech 1 item, we're talking something that's equivalent to what we have today and our modern analog of utility vehicles. They're going to be generally they're going to be wheeled or tracked, and they're going to be internal combustion engines. So Tech 2 improves on that. Tech 3 we start to cross over. So Tech 3 we start crossing over to fusion-driven vehicles, which the fusion motors then frees us up from that pesky constraints of things like the atmosphere. So this is what allows Tech 3 vehicles or greater to need to be sealed, hence the point of having atmospherics in them as part of their manufacturing process. But this allows these vehicles to be operated in hostile environments to human beings, and or like underwater or in thin atmospheres or in poisonous atmospheres or whatever. And the same thing goes with the utility vehicle and industrial vehicle. So we can tap these things in numerous ways. In the case of, for example, when I've created Fred Dodge and some of the other agents, I wanted them to have a means to get around the planet without me having to truck them back and forth by shuttle. And I don't have enough production yet to produce this, that, or the other thing. One of the things I can do right off the bat, though, is I tap my utility vehicles and designate that 2 tons of utility vehicle are going to become motorcycles or dirt bikes or ATVs. So I chose ATVs in this case, and I decided that each ATV would weigh a tenth of, is a half a ton. I mean, maybe that's excessive. Maybe that's a big ATV. Maybe that's a UTA or something, UTV or whatever the hell you want to call it. A dirt bike will be, 100 kilograms, 100 pounds-ish, right? So a light one. And so you could have 10 of those for your 1 ton of utility vehicle. Now you've got 10 agents on a motor, each one on a motorcycle, right? Or you could have an ATU or something, I guess, at half a ton that holds 2 people and some minor cargo, based on the stats that's in the equipment, that's in the equipment guide. So I can choose to do that. And if I need to have bigger vehicles and more robust stuff, then I can tap and do those. And in very fact, this is the basic formula for creating, vehicles for your military. You need soft-sided stuff. It's going to be like light Jeeps and pickups and things like this because they're not mounting armor. That's additional material that gets added to a different specialty run, which is where we get into the defense industries and things like that. But that's kind of the whole gist of what we're going down that rabbit hole. And if any of you people stuck with me this long, God bless you, man. God bless you, because I know this part is just it bores people to tears. I have had more playtesters roll their eyes and fall asleep than during this crap than any other part of the damn game. Although I've had I think one person for sure, maybe 2, that really did get off on this accounting part of stuff. They really did like it. So utility vehicles, all right, we got that taken care of. Weapon, we Weapon grade material. Weapon grade material is an interesting animal. I don't currently have a fixed demand for it, although argumentably, if I went down through the mechanic needs for my units, each platoon that I have should need 0.01 ton of wheat per cycle. So that's something I probably will need to do soon is to go through my nascent military, which isn't very much. We haven't had an opportunity to really get into it much. I've got a couple platoons in various departments, and the actual militia and the protector service primarily, and I've been mostly mucking around with individual agents and stuff. So at the platoon level, or 25 troops, or the equivalent of 4 to 6 vehicles per lance, you would have a certain amount of consumption. So for a vehicle lance, for example, we would take whatever the transport. If I have a platoon that's completely mounted on motorbikes, that would be 25 soldiers with 25 motorbikes. Each motorbike consumes blank amount of fuel, which would be chemical fuel for CM or CH. So then I would total up the amount of vehicles, and I would add that to my cycle negative for chemical, and that would just automatically, so that platoon perpetually forever is supplied, and I don't have to worry about it anymore because I'm paying for it on the exchange. And the same goes through things like ammunition. So ammunition generally states for general training purposes, each platoon uses an excess amount of blank material, and so we call weapon grade material. Like a lot of game systems, and I've ran that down the road before for people too, is that like in BattleTech, sometimes we have to do a wink and a nod when it comes to logistics and realistics. You can have 50 different types of ballistic weapons out there, and each one has a different type of ammo. The millimeters can be off just by a hair, and then one ammo will not function in another weapon system if that's how you choose. Trying to keep track of all that stuff on a paper basis, good luck. No, I just chose to lump it all, just like trade goods, just like carbon, just like certain items. I just choose to lump everything into that category. And so at this case, a block of WE is whatever the hell material you need. So if you need that WE to represent battery packs for your laser rifles, for your laser rifle armed platoons, so be it. If you need it to be bullets for the autocannon, so be it. As long as you're accounting for the amount of total weapon grade material required per cycle. And in addition to all of this, weapon grade material is also a required material component in the manufacture of certain types of things, especially naval grade weapons. Naval grade weapons produce or require a weapon grade material, and I've had some spirited arguments in the past over that with people, like, what the hell is this, blah blah blah, and I tried to get people to understand that there's a general upkeep and a general expense, but you're also producing things that are specifically geared toward something. So in this case, weapon grade material helps build the weapons it's going to utilize. So you can make the argument that this is the first round of ammunition in that weapon when it gets rolled out of the factory. It's already preloaded because we've installed WE. Or we can make the argument that the weapon grade material is also component material utilized in the manufacture of the weapons themselves. In any case, it's just another way of tapping that item and getting double use out of it without having to have yet another thing on the exchange. And yeah, I put a lot of thought into that crap. I spent I don't know how many freaking hours over years of going back and re-looking at things and looking at how does this work and how does this affect the other thing. Because like I said, when you're creating a game system, it might sound, it's real simple. You can make a really simplistic system. Yes, you can. A lot of, you know what? I love Axis and Allies. I love Axis and Allies. It's a great game for a minute, very, very short minute, and then it becomes a snooze fest because you're really, really limited to what you can and can't do if you follow the game mechanics and the rules. And that's designed for purpose. They want that game to be what potentially could be a game that could take weeks to play. They would like that game to be able to be doable in an evening, so things expedite. It becomes a game of attrition and a game of mass production. Once you figured you reach that crux where you're out producing your opponents, the game's over. You might as well tip the king over and save everybody the hassle of the grind. Why grind it out? You know everybody. You know who, just generally speaking, unless somebody pulls a rabbit out of their butt, you know where the game's going to go. At that point, you might as well call it a game. If you're sufficiently veteran enough of a player, if you're experienced enough as a player, and you understand that, and your player and your co-players understand that too, then you just speed up your play. You understand when you've either painted yourself into a corner, or the statistics of the dice rolls have gone against you, and at some point it's time to beat feet, retreat, and fight another day, or capitulate. Just acknowledge you lost and reset the board for the next thing. In my opinion, for what little that rant's worth, is what it is. So we're almost done with this. We're almost done with this portion of it. I wish I had more light, though. I tell you what. There we go. I went out and got some new glasses. These are not them. Even with my new prescription, I still feel like I'm just guessing my eyes are tired. My eyes are tired a lot. We're back to me ranting and raving again. Jesus, I tried hard not to do that crap. I worked pretty late Friday night. I have about 57 hours for last week, which is damn good for me. That means another $900 check, which I God well need, because between the van payment, the furnace, and the frickin' MediaCom, there's fucking almost 400. There is 400 plus right there. So half of my check Friday's already spent, and such is life. But on the positive side, that means I only have 7 more payments on the van. And then I told the wife, we're going to double up on that furnace payment and get that bitch done. $300 a month instead of $180. Just get it paid. Or I think we're going to hold off buying another vehicle. Right now, with the interest rates as high as they are, the van's functioning well. It almost would cost as much to fix the van as it would to replace it. So I'd have to weigh pretty heavily what might need, if we're talking something significant, it might be better off just to replace it. But with these interest rates and crap today, I never worried about any of that shit when I was younger. Oh man, sometimes I say what it would be like to be, I wish I could be young again. If I knew then what I know now, oh my God, how different the world would be. Alright, so I've got that all accomplished. Everything's accomplished there. Awesome. So then what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to go down the entire buy column, because this breaks down into production needs, as in production needs, mined as in items mined. Then we have trade. So we have items that we're buying, people are buying from us, and items we're selling. So we know how many tonnage of something we're buying and selling. Then we have our warehouse. This is how much surplus we have above what's on the exchange. The surplus is the exchange itself, the positive number that we have available on the exchange. The positive number sets the purchase price per ton, which then is taken times the amount of tons available to give us a credit percentage. So in this case, I have 41 tons of atmospherics available to sell on my exchange, and total they are worth 24.1 credits, and my house will generate 21.4 credits in taxes or revenue from that stuff actually being on the market and being available. And I've had players once again come up to me and go, what the fuck? And I'll tell them, look, it's called speculative economics. It's how our stock exchange works. It's how a lot of stuff works in the world today, if you really want to look at it. The factories are going to keep producing material, which means they're going to keep demanding resources. The resources are going to continue to flow in. So we're going to have that surplus, and sometimes we're going to have a shortage, which means we're going to pay more for an item than what we would. And sometimes we're going to have a surplus, we're going to pay less for an item. And so to facilitate that in a paper-based version, this is the system I settled upon. And right or wrong, this is how it works, and I don't know how else to go about explaining it. And that leaves us with the last column, which is sell. So this would be if I were to sell something. So, and this is what can be confusing for some people. Buy means what is my customer buying from me? So when the merchant arrives, he buys from the house exchange. When the merchant arrives, he sells to the house exchange. So in this case, I need, in the case of aluminum, for example, I have a demand of negative 17. So I'm using 17 tons of aluminum every cycle on my planet to keep just to keep things operating, even though I have actually no production for it. So we are paying extra for that negative over time, knowing that eventually we're going to get aluminum that's going to show up, and then we're going to purchase it at that elevated amount, which then balances off at the end of the day. Welcome to crazy 101 economics, I guess. I don't know. So I'm going to go down my buy column and add everything up. So 24.1. I get everything right. 24.1. And we're going down 25. 13.1. And 25.5, another 25.5, 23, and we'll go back down here, 25.5 and 25.5 there, so 50.5. No, should have been, all right. And then down to here, 25.5. And 14.3, 24.9. So if I have a number that exceeds 25.5, if I have a positive, a buy number of 38, then the math's wrong. It's definitely wrong, and you have to go back and figure out what's miscalculated, because you don't want to be screwing yourself. Not really. I mean, if you're being honest, you're playing a game by yourself. You got to be honest to yourself. If you want to cheat yourself, well then, hell, knock yourself out, because at that point, what am I going to say? All right, 25.5, 20.2, 25.5. See, if you look at this and you compare this to the first time I did one of these exchanges, you can see just how much the exchange has developed over the last 8-9 cycles. So we had a huge negative the first couple cycles. We were losing credits to operational costs. So we were going to be in Dutch pretty soon, because you only start out with 500 credits to begin with. So it doesn't really take long to burn through those when you look at it from the grand scheme of the big picture. And the fact now is right now we like double what we were making on that first cycle, which makes perfectly good sense, because we've had time, our mining ships are going out, and if you look, there are still a lot of blanks here. Still have some. So one of the reasons to continue sending your scout ships out, your mining ships, to explore new locations like asteroid belts, asteroid fields, what you're looking for eventually is a source for everything on your exchange that you can mine. And once you can mine those, bring them back. See, there's a couple hundred credits, potential credit just right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So potentially 125 credits per cycle if I can get enough. If I can bring 50 tons of each one of those items back from mining it somewhere. So it's kind of the way you want to look at this when we're building it. So we get down to the last one, 25.5. So we produced 547. Alright. Let me see where the hell I'm going to put that. Alright, it goes here. 547. Now we're going back to negatives. And so the negatives would be, in this case, the sell category, the sell column. And we're going to add all the little punky shit up. And it adds up. Right. Sometimes I learned a long time ago to mark where the hell I'm at, because sometimes it doesn't take much to get diverted. 1, 3, 4. These little ones sometimes you can add up faster because you can just go down the line. It's when you start getting into all the fractions and stuff that you got to slow down a hair, because you know, if you don't care about the fractions, then you can round up and down to your heart's content. I mean, that's all up to you and how you want to choose to operate the stuff. 0.5, so 0.5, 3 point, or 2.1, 2.6, 3.6, and then 13.4. So 5.5 and 1.5, 7, 8, 9.5, 12.6. And 4.7. Let's see, 1, 3.5, so 3.5, 4.5, 5, 6.5, and 3.6. Yeah, I hear you. .5. That one's getting really faint. 3.6. 6.4. 13. 13 at 6.4 is 19.4. 0.5. 1.5. That's that. 8.1, 16.1, and we got 0.5, 2, 10.6, 6.5. There goes Doofus by the outside window. So wife's gonna be wanting to get him in the house here pretty soon. I gotta work this evening too, so I'm looking at another 50-odd hour a week coming up. This is a feast month. This is a feast month, so that tells me November is gonna be a slower month. So next month probably slow down, or yeah, next month's gonna slow down. 3.4, 4.4, and I don't know when I'm afraid it's gonna slow down much sooner than I want to, because the fourth gear on the damn truck's going out, and we know it's going out. I talked to the boss about it. He's dragging his feet to do anything about it. He's gonna wait till it fucking completely gales out, and then we're sitting there trying to figure out what the hell we're gonna do. Okay, so I have a negative on my exchange of 223.5, 223.5, and so we're going to take that and subtract that from 547. So we had a surplus. Now last cycle I had a surplus, or I made made 224.74 in credits. This cycle we're going to make 323.5. Which is great, because so what this really does is it means we have enough excess money when I do get these freighters and merchants that come in to sell shit, I have deeper pockets to sell it with. And so I had my previous balance of 426.77. So I'm going to take all this and add this up. Previous 420 or 626.77, and I have a billed tax of 26.5 for the cycle, and I'm not selling anything this cycle, so I had with our current profit of 323.5. This gives minus my government expenses is 77.86, and I'll probably wait till cycle 20. Cycle 20, I will go back completely through my government list and make sure that my government expenses that are up to date and account for anything I've added. Because every time, like I said, every time you add an agent or a platoon or a new build, this changes the operating expenses of your house. And so you want to keep up with that when you can. I mean, that's just my opinion. Anyway, so now, why does that not look? I don't know. I gotta check something. Something equal. Oh, that's right, because I didn't hit equal. All right, so we have a surplus. We started the cycle out with 851.51 credits in the exchange, or I mean in the house coffers, and we are now ending the current cycle 898. So we've gained almost 50 credits. So we're right now making roughly a 50 credit a cycle profit, which is great. So, all right, while I'm at it, we're also going to go look down my list. I have produced for my house, this would be my cycle 16 notes, so we're going to go ahead and put these here too, just so I have it available to me if I need to come back later. And Treasury, 898.94, and we produce another 25 AR. So our factory A is currently set to produce 1 ton of AR rifles, or Tech 1 automatic rifles, per cycle. And I'm currently researching Star Drive 2, and there's 3 more cycles yet to go. And my shipyard is still working on yet another batch of sublight drives, and 3 more cycles to do that. My research facility, my R&D lab number 1, is still researching the bouncer beast to determine whether or not the stun stuff that its skin emits can be weaponized or utilized in some manner. My build queue, I have 1 more cycle to go before my housing concern is complete, and then so at the cycle 17, my second housing concern will have been finished, and we'll then at that point decide whether it's going to be an entire another settlement on the planet of Fairwind, or if it's just going to enhance the existing colony and just double its size. Ideally, my single housing concern that came with the house has housing for up to 15,000 people in cramped conditions. Optimum is 10, so I'm already exceeding 10,000 population. So the people are not. They're going to get cramped and they're going to get crabby. The more, and then we hit 15,000, and then we stall. And at that point, there's actually some negative issues for planetary growth, because your planetary colony is going to try to correct itself. It doesn't want to. It cannot have sustain anybody more than a certain percentage, and then it becomes problematic. And then if you're in certain environments, like if we needed oxygen and water on a daily basis, that would expedite the problem. So in that case, the obvious solution right off the bat was to build another housing exchange, or housing concern. So the housing concern can hold optimally 10,000, 15,000 in crowded conditions. So by adding a second one, I now will give my house the capability of having up to 30,000 population before I need to worry about a third housing concern. And hopefully by that point, I will have researched Tech 2 housing concern blueprints, so I can expand on the next layer of stuff. But that would also take another level, because we'd have to have the infrastructure 1 complete in order to capitalize on Tech 2 builds. That's the downside. Anyway, so meanwhile, looking at My Ministry of Intelligence dojo. I have one agent and one squad in training. And I do not know what that second number, that first number, it don't make any sense. Oh, it was cycle 10 when I started, and all right, means next cycle I will have Christy Blake will have completed her training, and she will probably then go back in the field, and I will more likely then take Fred Dodge and send him in to spend some time with our weapons sensei so they can gain some additional skills. And I will also have one squad of agents. And I don't remember, I have to go look my notes up, whether it was a squad of protectors or somebody else that went to the program. Anyway, so this is how we worked the exchange out, and we now know what we want to go do and what we don't want to do. Plus, I also, looking back at this, I need to follow up on Fred Dodge. So what we have yet to do is I need to do Fred Dodge and Kara Carmichael, and I think that's it, because I don't think I went and did anything else when it comes to agents wise. I'll have to look at that. Oh, I need to check up on our oh damn it, the hazmat guys, the frickin' bio agents or whatever. Trying to get samples of whatever it is that's killing people on that swamp world, so I can get a cure for it, so I can start sending my agents directly to the planet and not have them up and croak on me. At least that's the plan anyway. So my friends, that is bringing our exchange up to current date for cycle 16, and the only thing left for this cycle would be, like I said, to do an entry for Fred and one for Kara, which obviously will be in different videos. Until next week, you guys, or until next time, you guys have yourself a great weekend.